Hello, David. Sorry for the dark video. The very interesting point that you brought up about the character that you cited, the farmer in the difficult times, trying to make his farm work, trying to think ahead through it, and use his brain to work out those logistics and plan a strategy and game plan, so to speak. The challenges and the difficulty in that. It's a funny thing, and then his decision to go with more just what is it, laissez-faire? Is that the right word? Maybe not. Approach, where there's another express train. Oh, that's a regular train, not the express one. I like your story about the express train, by the way. I'm walking back the same way. I was just going home from work now. This is exactly where I made the video for response to you this morning. The other approach of just kind of going with his feeling as he moved along and encountered things, isn't that probably more how our species was early on? More primitive. Here comes another train going the other way. This one's going towards Tokyo. Probably won't make it all the way to Tokyo though. Probably stop somewhere on Numazu or something. I think that both approaches. I'm not advocating in talking about the Path of Wildness in my videos and stuff. I'm not necessarily advocating it as a better way to do things. I'm making a document right now that I'm calling the Path of Wildness FAQ, for lack of a better description. It's just kind of, this is the Path of Wildness is, and I'm laying out all the things that it is. And I'm definitely not in that little document. There goes a bullet train. In that document, I definitely describe the Path of Wildness as dangerous and not necessarily safe. Just what I said, just dangerous, not the safest route to go. But there is something immediate and something visceral about it that seems to work in many situations. As a family man, I would be hesitant to live my life on the Path of Wildness due to the fact that when things do go wrong, they can go wrong big, and I have a lot of responsibility to keep in mind. So for me, for someone who takes on, who chooses to become a part of the hive, this infrastructure here, this society, I probably walk the path more out of recreation and when I have the opportunity, and within the scope of my willingness to take risks. But when it comes to providing for my family and ensuring the security of my wife and daughter, I will behave more like the farmer who thinks ahead. Because I think there is a lot of value. I'm speaking to the choir here. I think you and I would both agree that there are values to both approaches. Perhaps in this farmer's case, the fact of the changing times, the dynamics, the speed at which things were changing speak to the fact that it's hard to. It's like you wouldn't want to, in a country with runaway inflation, you wouldn't want to be trying to come up with a fiscal plan that involved savings and loans and stuff like that. You'd more just want to keep the money under your mattress and invest and spend on a day-to-day basis based on what's happening. Likewise with a society in the midst of change. I think that probably for me the most critical thing about the Path of Wildness, the concept, is that I shouldn't say the critical thing. A thing that I think is easy to get distracted on. It's not necessarily about nature and I'm not saying that you got this impression. I'm just kind of speaking out loud for my own sake to help reinforce things, because I'm still trying to work out some things. It's not really about nature or being in touch with anything that's not civilization or man-made. So instead, it's about really coming back to what you just said with that farmer, about moving through life with a willingness to heed the inclination that is our first, what I call the first inclination. Because I think that our brain, our circuitry is built in, has a built-in wiring that is hardwired from experience of our species passage of time, that basically these animals that in our distant past, before we had our big brains, the animals, there's a lot of wiring in there from that. The animals that and even as we developed our bigger brains, the animals that the best practices of survival, the animals that survive, those best practices in some ways seem to have been instilled in us through instinct and kind of a sixth sense type of a thing. You know what I mean. It's not really sixth sense. It's really a biological element. And dogs have this this kind of intuition. Basically the beast. It's something that the beasts have, and they tend to heed that. An animal can sense something intimidating or scary in the distance, and will heed that and show some fear. Whether or not it really is something scary, it could be just the postman. But there is something valuable in what the animal senses, and when they heed it. Like they say sometimes. I think the thing that won me over with this was that the way that the humans have this I can't come up with the right word for that. We have this way of coming up with scary thoughts. We hear a snap walking through the woods. We hear a snap, a crackle in the underbrush, and we assume it's a. We wonder, what is it? It scares us. Is it a wolf? Is it a ghost? Just what is it? And we will take steps. Our fear will cause us to take steps to protect ourselves. That's our first instinct. And we humans with our bigger brains now can overcome that, and we can say, well, that's just silliness and move on forward. But back in the day, back in the old day, it was much better to make that mistake and seek shelter. And if it was just basically a stick falling through the forest to hit the ground, rather than make the mistake and proceed forward when it could be a predator there. So there's something wired in us for that kind of stuff, and I think that extends to a lot of things. The path of wildness then is listening to that instinctual message that seems to be coming at us all the time and kind of guiding us. And I talk about kind of a movement thing. You're moving. When in the video, The Path of Wildness, I was moving through the brush. There was no path. There was no trail anymore. It was all just wild and just kind of heeding whatever kind of instinct was causing me to go left or right or whatever case it would be. And the benefit, the boon, the gain from that was adventure in that case. The thrill, the excitement of moving forward, taking risks moment by moment, because it is inherent risk, even though I wasn't really at risk. It's risk taking in a way, because it's acting on the immediate. And then the path of wildness, walking the path of wildness in life, can happen when we are in the midst of a mini adventure like that, or in the midst of, like I'm doing right now, walking on home, and basically heeding my instincts as I go, living with less fear. It comes back to your farmer example, right? Living with less fear, less contemplation of consequences, which can have its own consequences, right? But in essence, maybe moving forward a little more with sense of peace. I have a feeling that if almost any human being that is thoughtful of these types of things, not even these types of things, thoughtful at all, if they had a chance to come back after death, they would probably live like this, as a matter of course, having realized the brevity, the reality of passage, and the immediate need to live rather than to cower and to wait. Although hesitancy and prudence do have their merits, especially for those who have responsibilities. It's a life. As I saw on Facebook today, a meme, whatever they're called, came by, something about living a life. I'd rather live a life full of oh wells, or rather than a life full of I wish I had done something, right? Kind of like that. Yeah, I think that kind of comes full circle. Well, I'll leave you for now, my friend, and it's it's always good to hear from you, to get your messages and have a chance to correspond. Talk to you soon. All right, David. And by the way, thank you for engaging me in a conversation about the concept of the path of wildness. And really, there's nobody else I can talk to about this stuff yet at this point. There's just ideas I'm throwing out. I get comments from time to time, but you've actually gone out of your way to talk to me about this, and you actually even blog about it. Wow, it means a lot to me. You're helping me together to flesh out concepts that teasing the interesting. Bye. Take care. Isn't that probably more how our species was early on? More of a more primitive. Here comes another train going the other way. This one's going towards Tokyo. Probably won't make it all the way to Tokyo though. Probably stop somewhere on Numazu or something. I think that both approaches. I'm not. Hello, David. Sorry for the dark video. The very interesting point that you brought up about the character that you cited, the farmer in the difficult times, trying to make his farm work, trying to think ahead through it, and use his brain to work out those logistics and plan a strategy and game plan, so to speak, and the challenges and the difficulty in that. It's a funny thing, and then his decision to go with more just what is it, laissez-faire? Is that the right word? Maybe not. Approach, where advocating in talking about the path of wildness in my videos and stuff, I'm not necessarily advocating it as a better way to do things. I'm making a document right now that I'm calling the Path of Wildness FAQ, for lack of a better description. It's just kind of, this is the Path of Wildness is, and I'm laying out all the things that it is. And there's another express train. Oh, that's a regular train, not the express one. I like your story about the express train, by the way. I'm walking back the same way. I was just going home from work now. This is exactly where I made the video for response to you this morning. The other approach of just kind of going with his feeling as he moved along and encountered things.